This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So on the show today, we have Matt Plumer, and he was talking about how he lost over 100 pounds in weight and paid off over $500,000 in debt. And at the end of the previous segment, Matt, you said what most real estate agents are focused on financially is on last year's taxes and next month's car note. That just hit me upside the head because that is so true in our industry. Why do you think that is?
Well, from that moment, moving forward, and after thousands of conversations and creating hundreds of financial transformations, the two things that bring the most stress and anxiety for real estate agents is inconsistent income and financial disorganization. And so when you have inconsistent income or you're financially disorganized, you're seeing at the board, you can't see far enough down the line of time to start aiming, all your money towards opportunities because you're strapped with these obligations.
Yeah.
The obligations of a car payment, the obligations of last year's taxes, or this month's, lead generation bill, or whatever it might be of all of the things that are strapping and weighing real estate agents, team leaders, and broker owners down. And so when you're trying to go two directions at one time, you get exhausted. Right. And so if you're trying to get from one, north and south, can you go north and south at the same time?
No.
And so when you try to do that, you just burn up the engine. And so when real estate agents that are running 900 miles an hour have a flat tire, they're trying to change the flat tire while they're going 80 miles an hour down the road.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I've read it in a book, right? They're running enthusiastically in the wrong direction. So, we have to pull off the side of the road, tap pause, change the flat tire, check the other tires, look under the hood, maybe change an oil belt or do an oil change the timing belt, and then get back on the interstate going in one direction, aiming at all of our money at obligations. So then we can take everything for the rest of our lives and aim it at opportunities.
That's a huge paradigm shift. That's a shift in habits, a shift in spending.
Massive.
You got your spouse on the right page if you have a spouse. What is What's some tips? Like, you have a strategy. I think you call it the wealth strategy. How do you lead people into that, going in one direction and just attacking their obligations? Yeah.
So it's called the wealth method, right? And so the W is wisdom, right? And so the wisdom is the understanding, the learning, the psychology behind it, the building the relationship with, even actually going through the financial transformation of awareness, decision, intentionality. Getting on the same page with your business partner, with your spouse or your team leader or whoever it might be, or your operations person, and truly mapping out the plan, right? One of the things that I do with all of my, coaching clients is we build a wealth map. And, that all starts with the Oz at the end of the rainbow or the end of the yellow brick road of like, what is it that you want? Yeah. Because most people, the number one mistake that agents make is they don't know how or when they're going to exit the transaction treadmill.
This is true.
They have no idea. And so then if
they've even considered it.
If they even thought about it, they're just like, hell, I'm going to sell real estate until the day I die.
Yeah.
Right? Which is what happens by default. Right? And so we have to intercept that and say, hey, what is it that you want? When do you want it? And when do you want to have your throw the phone in the ocean moment to where you don't have to take a listing? You don't have to go to work. Right? You can go on that vacation you and I were talking about. It's like, hey, we can go here and your phone doesn't work and I don't have stress and anxiety because my phone doesn't work.
Oh my gosh. This reminds me of a conversation I had yesterday with some friends who are in real estate. And they're like, they know my dad. My dad comes around and we all smoke cigars and hang out together. And they're like, so where's your dad been recently? Because my dad likes to travel. And I told him, he just recently been to Machu Picchu and saw Christ the Redeemer in Brazil, and then he's planning to go to the Taj Mahal and the Great Wall this next year. And like, what did he do? Was he like a stockbroker, like a doctor? Like, what kind of crazy income did he have that allowed him to do this? I said he was a teacher for 40 years. He did not make a whole lot of money.
Teacher. Right?
Yeah, he didn't make a whole lot of money, but he was very intentional with what he had. And now he has that retirement coming in that enables him to live a free lifestyle. So he's not making rock star money, but he's free. Yeah. And so many people in our industry, in real estate and in other potentially high earning incomes and industries, they make the money, but they just don't have a plan. Yeah. So that's something that you help them do.
Yeah. So in the wealth method, we create a wealth map. that says, hey, if, this is what we want, when we want it at, year 12 from now or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And obviously kids and time and season of life, all that stuff plays into it.
Yeah.
And so then we just work the numbers backwards and say, okay, what has to be true at that point? I need this amount of money coming in. This is the life I want, et cetera, et cetera. And so we build our yellow brick road back to the now. And we say, okay, that means we have to go sell X amount of houses. And when when Y amount of money comes in, this is what we're going to do with the money in 2025, or at least the first quarter, right? Because real estate agents don't make as much as they think. We spend more than we care to admit, and that causes us to be behind on taxes and or retirement.
Yep.
Right? So we have to understand all of these facts and truths about money and build a relationship with it, so that on our way, the E is earn, because you have to go earn money and you have to accumulate money, which is the A, so that you can add age to it, so that when you have that money and you have that month where the closing falls through, or something happens, an emergency, or hey, you want to go to this event and you didn't save any money and you can't go to the event, but if you save the money over the course of the year, you can just write the check and fly first class and stay in the presidential suite and all that stuff, right? We have to have a plan. We have to earn money. We have to accumulate money so we can lend money by tracking it to build health and habits.
Health and habits. Love it. So what so many agents do, though, is that it's called, I've heard it called standing naked in front of the mirror. Like, you just have to stand naked in front of the mirror and just accept, like, this is me. This is the situation I'm at. How do you take somebody who's got their head buried in the sand? Because this is true for anybody. This isn't just real estate agents. Yeah. This is a mechanic who's in debt.
This is the husband sitting on the counselor's couch with his wife on the other end in tears, blaming her for everything.
Yeah. I've never been there. I don't know at all what that looks like. Yeah.
Who knows what that looks like?
Who knows? Yeah. But so how do they come to you and have already had this moment, or do you help them walk through that moment?
So I would say half the people that come to me already know they have a crisis situation, right? They have, they've sold 50 houses in the last 12 months and they have $7,000 in their bank account and they haven't filed taxes in 2 years.
Yikes.
It's actually not a bad problem, right? It's a challenge that we're there. However, if you can make the money, we can solve all the problems, right? I read in a book that if you have enough money to solve a problem, you no longer have a problem, right? So if you make enough money, we can solve the problem. And so we can create consistent income. We can create the map. And so when the person comes to me that's like, hey, I make plenty of money, I'm like, now it's just math, right? It's just time and math. By building the right habits, right? Because we have to change some of the things, right? We have to change the overeating. We have to change the overspending. We have to change the, hey, I'm going to go buy this on a credit card because I have 4 closings coming in December, and, interest rates never go up, or they, we never have a pandemic, or, an election changes something, right? That never happens.
I have 4 deals closing. It's guaranteed to happen.
Right. And so when, agents don't make as much as they think, and we all spend more than we care to admit, and there's no plan, that's when the stress comes in. That's when the disaster comes in, and the credit card bill comes in for the trip to go to Machu Picchu that wasn't planned, and it's $14,000, and you forget about it 60 days later. You're like, oh, I got a $14,000 credit card bill from a trip that I forgot about.
Yep. It just compounds. So it sounds like so obviously you have to recognize there's a problem. If you don't think that there's an opportunity for improvement, then why change? But then moving beyond that, the next important thing sounds like having a plan and sticking to the plan. Yeah.
So that awareness. So kind of back to the standing in the naked in the mirror is like, the hardest part is coming to that mirror, and then not having shame, blame, and guilt for how you look.
That's good.
And you have to look through that, because that is just an accumulation of all the decisions that you've made up until today. That's all it is. It's just the facts. The facts are truth, and the truth will set you free. So if you just say, hey, I look like this, I wear this, I have this much money, I've closed this many houses, I have this relationship with my spouse, and these are the facts. And you're like, I can change all of this by one decision on getting off the couch and getting in some extra steps and tracking what I put into my body. We can do the exact same thing with money. We can do the exact same thing with our business when it comes to lead generation and relationships and all of that. The framework stays the same. Then you get to that intentionality to where it's like, okay, I'm going to do this every day.
Yeah.
And I'm going to text my accountability partner. I'm going to hire a coach, and I'm just going to show a screenshot that I checked every dollar today, or I checked my Fitness Pal, or whatever it is. And like, it's the finish line will come to you, and it'll come to you so much faster. That's what happened to us. When we paid off the debt, and then we started building money, and then, as you're building the habits, and now you can see further down that line of time. And we started asking ourselves questions. Like, if we could live anywhere, where would it be? And why do we live where we live? Because we now didn't have any debt, and we were living on my wife's income. And I've started selling a couple of houses, and I'm having these conversations with people that are like, hey, I'll pay you to walk me through this journey. And I'm like, so I'm like, if I go actually pull this off, like, what life could Melinda and I go live? And by impacting people. And so then we just started looking as like, hey, why do we live where we live in Northern Virginia?
I'm sorry.
It was all because of our jobs and our careers. And we were strapped with this debt because that was our identity. Well, now it's gone. And we focused so hard on like lowering the water and kind of raising the bridge to where now it's like, if we could live anywhere, where would it be? And where would we love? And what don't we like? Well, at that point in my career, in 19, I'm like, I don't like rain. I don't like cold. I don't like gray. I don't like clouds. I don't like traffic. I don't like congestion. I don't like stress. And I'm like, I live in Northern Virginia.
There you go.
Okay.
Just checked all the things you don't like.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm like, what do we want? I was like, I want 300 days of sunshine. I want no income taxes. I want a high quality outdoor life. And I want to play 300, or I want to be able to play 200 rounds of golf. And I'm like, well, I just eliminated 98% of the country.
Yeah, California's not on that list.
In 6 minutes, I got to either Phoenix or Las Vegas.
Yep.
And so we saved up money to go to Phoenix, and we saved up money to go to Las Vegas. And we were like, what would it look like? What would have to be true for us to live here? And it turned into a coaching business. It turned into building an agent organization. And I hired a coach that had done something similar. And I'm like, all right, now it's just math.
Yep.
And conversation by conversation by conversation of doing the exact same thing. Now I'm doing it in a business and raising the bridge. 18 months, we had enough money saved to where we can go buy a house in Las Vegas.
Boom. And that's where you are now.
And that's where we live now.
That's so awesome. So your story's very, very similar to Valerie and mine, where we were working in the small town where I grew up, had a fantastic job, but had accumulated some debt. We ended up paying off the debt. And during that period of time, we also traveled all 50 states trying to figure out where we wanted to live. So if the world was your oyster, if we could pick it, if we could pick the spot, where would we pick? And it came down, and we thought we honestly were going to leave California. But we just like the weather here too much. And so it was either going to be Newport, California, or Sacramento, Roseville. And so, obviously here we are recording in Sacramento, so we chose Sacramento. But it was so empowering to be able to make that choice because we weren't, bogged down with debt. And so for people who are listening to this, hearing your story, it sounds, when I have the conversation about fitness, because I used to be almost 50 pounds heavier, when I have the conversation about debt or business or anything like that, people tend to retract because they don't want to make those changes. It sounds constricting. It sounds painful. But when I hear you talk about it, I feel empowered. I feel energized. I'm like, this is totally doable for me. Like, I'm here. I could get there. What would you say to people who are maybe feeling like, this won't work for me? Yeah. Well, money doesn't know you, and money doesn't know what you do. Right. And so money is amoral. Right. I mean, It can, like this microphone. This microphone can, obviously record this, or I can throw it through the window and it could be a weapon. Yeah. Right. And so I think that's the thing in that awareness decision moment of like, what do you want your identity to be? And looking through the board of saying, hey, these next 6 to 12 months may be a little rough. It may be a little rocky, but I'm doing this for a lifetime.
and I'm doing this for a legacy, not only leaving one, but living one. And, 80 years from now, what do I want to be doing? Right? Or 40 years from now, depending on where you are on the scale of time, like 20 years from now, what do I want to be doing?
Yeah.
Like, do you still want to be worrying about back taxes 20 years from now? Do you still want to be worrying about, like, I don't have enough money in my retirement account 20 years from now?
Yeah.
Like, so, like, if you don't want that, then we have to look at the pain and, like, what is the, and it's not even the pain, it's just the being, at the end of the day, like, don't create more problems by not being an adult.
Yeah.
Like, let's be an adult. Let's grow up. Let's face our fears. Let's look at the facts.
Yeah.
And let's go do something about it so that 18 months from now, I don't have to tell our kids, or we don't have any kids, but I don't tell my wife that we can't afford it or we can't do this because of that. No.
And there's always going to be an element of, hey, we can't afford it. Like, it'd be really cool to own a 300-foot yacht. Okay, great. We can't afford it, but the things that really matter to you, the things that you feel like you're getting left out in life, you're able to still have that freedom to enjoy those things.
My wife in 2017, we went to New York City for her birthday, and this was right after we had paid off debt, and I hadn't sold any real estate yet, like maybe a couple of houses, and so when we went to New York City, it was like strap for time, strap for money, strap for like experiences. And it was one of the most stressful, experiences. And like on the way home, we took the train up from DC, and I'm like, how was that? And she was like, well, the carrot cake was good. And I'm like, I never want to go on another trip like that. And she said, well, good news is next year and from here on out, I want to go to a new country for my birthday. And I'm like, okay, well, we just paid off all this debt. Like, we get a little bit of breathing room? And she's like, yeah, and it's going to be Australia.
Okay, so she picked a cheap country.
So she picked a cheap one that's like right around the corner, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, my initial thought was like, you're crazy, lady. We live in a 1,000-square-foot apartment, and you want to go spend $15,000 on a vacation?
To Australia.
And I'm like, why Australia? And she's like, so I can swim with great white sharks.
This is just getting better and better.
And I'm like, we can't do that anywhere else in like the United States. And she was like, no, it's in a place called Port Lincoln. Port Lincoln's the size of the studio. So it's not like you can fly there like on an airline.
Yeah.
Like you have to like drive and parachute in and like do all this crazy stuff to get to Port Lincoln. And so as we started investigating this, and this is looking through the board, not at the board, I'm started like, okay, flights are this, hotels this, food's this. And I'm like, we can save $1,500 a month and I can do this trip.
That's cool. And were you guys able to do it?
100%.
That's awesome.
And so on the way home, we started saying, okay, where do we want to go next year? Where do we want to go the next year? And so it's been Australia, and it's Belize and St. Lucia and Machu Picchu. And last year we did her dream trip was Dubai.
Wow.
All from saving and planning and being intentional with this while we built a house, while we bought a house, while we moved, while we joined a golf club, while we've paid off and eliminated obligations, and while we've invested, and it keeps a downward pressure on our expenses. We have a line item for intentionality on increasing lifestyle. However, it keeps us focused on increasing the bridge and up and to the right on our revenue, which comes to impact.
And so what I'm hoping people are hearing is I'm hoping they're feeling empowered and that they know that change is possible. But you're right. There are some people who, maybe might be listening to this and in their late teens, early 20s, or that are maybe in their 60s, 70s. But change happens so fast when you get laser focused on it.
My mom and stepdad just celebrated their 35th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations!
Yeah, they're all stars, and we started our journey in 2014. And again, like the son trying to tell his mom what to do with money is like, "Hey, I wiped your butt. You can't tell me what to do."
Yeah.
Until we started getting some wins, and that got her encouraged and started asking questions. And so we led my mom and stepdad on a journey, And this was in 15, so a decade ago. They're 70 and 71 now, so this was and they're 60. That's 60 years old. They hadn't talked about money.
Wow.
Right? And again, their marriage was fine. It was great. It was up and to the right. They hadn't ever built a relationship with money until Melinda and I started like having conversations with them about it and doing it from a place of love and not like telling mom and dad what to do.
Sure.
And so, they got on the same page, and whatever remaining little debt they had, they got intentional with it, and they got on a plan, and they organized the stuff because money was going into 14 different little savings accounts for Christmas and Easter and this. And I'm like, all right, we'll do that, but let's get it all in one pot first. Mm-hmm. So we added some organization to it. And I mean, they're 6 months away from paying off their house in a decade.
Wow.
Because they got laser focused. They go on an annual monthly trip in March because the weather in Indiana is so amazing. So they go to the warm places, right? Mm-hmm. And so like they get to do all of these things at 70 because they said yes at 60.
Correct.
And they get to do it for the next 15, 20 years.
They don't have to wait.
They don't have to wait.
Yeah. That's so freaking cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Matt. Guys, if you want to reach out and learn more about Matt, you can, of course, go to madeformorerealty.com. We'll get you in contact with Matt Plumer. But they can also, where's an easy place for them to find you?
MattPlumer.com. MattPlumer.com.
Man, that's solid. That's a good email or
Yeah.
good URL.
Yep.
You're lucky you have that. All right. Thanks again for being on the show, Matt.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
If you are thinking about selling your home, but you're feeling a little nervous, a little reluctant because you don't want to do all those much needed repairs, the cost, the time. You don't want to do showings and get your home staged and clean it and organize it. Guess what? There's a really easy option. Johnny Jennings will get you at least 3 cash offers on your home in as-is condition. It's not too good to be true. Just reach out to him, Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty, and he'll get you at least 3 cash offers today. Just Google Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty today and get more for your home.